Whenever I bring up the character Conker, I get a couple responses. Oh, you mean the main character from Conker's Bad Fur Day? Probably one of the funniest games to come out of Rare? Yeah, I mean that one. Or do you mean that one character from Diddy Kong Racing? Yeah, I remember him. He was kinda cute. Yeah, okay. Oh, you mean when they brought him back for Conker's big reunion from Project Spark? Or do you mean when Microsoft tried to reboot him? Stop it! Okay. Yes, all of the above. But did you know he had a game before Bad Fur Day? Chances are a lot of you didn't. And I'm not talking 12 Tales Conker 64, the game that slowly evolved into Bad Fur Day. I'm talking about an honest-to-God prequel. When Diddy Kong Racing came out, Rare set to make a game for every character that was in that game. Banjo got his own game. Diddy Kong was already an established character, so he got Diddy Kong Racing along with future titles on the N64. And then Rare moved on to Conker. Yeah, 12 Tales may have been cancelled and transformed into a more adult-oriented game, but 2 years prior to that coming out, he had a game on the Game Boy, and nobody talks about it. And that's what I want to find out with this Let's Play. Why does nobody talk about Conker's Pocket Tales? I'll give you a hint. It's because it's not that good! What's going on, everyone? It's the Niskel, and welcome to my Let's Play of Conker's Pocket Tales. I haven't heard that tone in years. So as we are getting into the main game, I want to ask you... First of all, Rare is going to ask me what language I speak, and by the fact that you're hearing me right now, I think you can tell it's British English. But I need to ask you... 2 intros are going to show up, and I want you to tell me which one you looked at first. Did you look at Happy, or did you look at Dread? I know exactly which one you looked at, because it's a fucking nightmare. Conker's Pocket Tales is one game, but 2 versions exist on the cartridge. One for Game Boy, and one for Game Boy Color. So depending on which system you're playing it on, you're getting a whole different experience. Now excuse me as I put in my initials, I am in fact Conker the Squirrel. Let's get to the plot. It's a fun, happy day, and it's Conker's birthday, except it's not so good because instead of a cake stripper, he got his arch nemesis. And his arch nemesis runs away. He's got a little Game Boy stuck to him there. He's not supposed to have that. Anyway, this guy runs away with his girlfriend Barry. And all of his presents. His birthday is ruined. Oh no! Your nemesis, the evil acorn, has taken Barry! Oh god, and all of your presents! You must retrieve them! Or your birthday party will be ruined! Cry me a goddamn river! Yeah, if Conker's Bad Fur Day was your first experience with this character, or hell, even Diddy Kong Racing, you're getting a complete 180 from what you would expect from this character. Now, don't get me wrong, little squirrel, he shouldn't be drinking. He's a young little boy. But this was not the game I was expecting. Right here on the wall, you can actually get a little map. This is only available in the Game Boy Color version, and this is one of 2 maps in the entire game. Does this help? Not really. I mean, it gives you basic pathing, but you can only look at it in buildings, so keep that in mind. Your ammo are Conker nuts, and acorns are your health. We are going to be mainly looking at the Game Boy Color version of the game. For one, this is the version that pretty much everybody remembers for the 5 of you who actually played this game. In fact, while I was looking up game footage just to see what I was looking at, there are no playthroughs of the Game Boy version. But we'll get into that. Oh my gosh, it's one of my stolen presents! It was in the garden the entire time! We're going back to the basics. The Game Boy only has a select number of buttons, which means you can only jump. And as you probably saw earlier, Conker kind of threw his hands out in front of him like he's trying to wave down a taxi. But we're also collecting presents, because we gotta save our birthday. Gosh dang it, the evil acorn stole all of them. So we're gonna have to get them back. As far as plots go for heroes that spawned off of Diddy Kong Racing, I don't know, I think Banjo got the better deal, even though his sister got taken and was put under a evil uglying spell by a witch. Conker, his birthday's just ruined. Again, Crimea River. That's the plot you're given. Now, I'll give the game this. There are multiple levels in the game. All of them are themed. And, you know, for a Game Boy game, you know, you don't expect a lot. So, we're getting a lot of bang for our buck. And then you get these weird-looking characters. Now, if you take a look at their sprites on the main game, they look kind of odd. Basically, you're seeing them as acorn with feet. In fact, it's not even regular, like, right ways up acorns. It's upside down acorns with feet. You'd be right. Here's the official artwork of those acorn people. Those are the denizens of this Willow Woods. And in fact, all the theme worlds have these weird acorn creatures. I don't know how to feel about this. This was one of those games that I picked up at a flea market years ago. And this was way after I Let's Played Conker's Bad Fur Day, so I saw it and I was like, oh my god, Conker had another game? Wow! I was never the same again. Now, let's take a look in here. This area, we'll get into it a bit later, but just know that you can't do anything in here right now. The interesting thing is, if you're playing the Game Boy Color version, the game doesn't tell you jack on what this place is or what it does. Just stuff happens randomly in the game. What's interesting is the Game Boy version, or let's say Game Boy / Super Game Boy version, that actually has an explanation as to what that does. And what's been so funny is looking up walkthroughs just to make sure I'm not missing anything. I have learned that people don't know what this game wants from them or what is happening in this game because nobody wanted to play the Game Boy version. Believe it or not, depending on which version you play, you might get more or less details depending on your version. Now, with that being said, let me give you a little tidbit of information. The Game Boy Color version, it's actually kind of hard. Like, for example, you see these acorns that we're picking up for health. Each acorn is one hit. After you get hit, you lose an acorn. That makes perfect sense. In the Game Boy version, acorns are split into 4 pieces, and they show up on your HUD at the bottom. So, every time you pick up an acorn, you get a 1/4 of one, and that helps out. But here's the difference. The acorns in the Game Boy Color version never come back. Once you pick them up, they are gone forever. To make up for this in the Game Boy version, enemies can drop acorns. They don't in the Game Boy Color version. As soon as you run out, you're screwed. So let's say you're trying to figure out this game, which is actually surprisingly hard for a Game Boy game. And I should mention that there isn't a lot of content in this. Again, I'm not going to blame it too much. It's a Game Boy game. What do you expect? They make it artificially harder in certain areas to make the game longer, and I despise that in older games. But it was a product at the time. Again, I can't blame it too much, but I can certainly wench about it, so I think I'll do that the entire time. I'm just kidding. I'm not going to wench about it the entire time. Again, there are things I like about this game. There are just way too many things that were either odd decisions or just downright bad ones. Like, seriously, Game Design 101 would not have some of these ideas in here. Just throwing that out there. Now, another small quirk of, jumping between versions. Enemies respawn faster in the Game Boy Color version. Now, with that being said, the Conker ammo actually respawns faster But again, this is something I don't understand, how they can have enough processing power to make enemies stay dead in the Game Boy version, but not in the Game Boy Color version. It's like they shifted all the processing power of the Game Boy completely on its head when changing versions. It makes no sense. Hi, I'm the Forest Guardian. If you ever... Pause for effect. Get stuck on your journey, come here for help. Oh, thank you, Forest Guardian. But first you must find the weapon. Take the key and present. You will find 8 presents on each world. Did you know you could save your game at any point by pressing start to open your inventory? And then pressing select? That is a bold-faced lie in the Game Boy version. Saving works just a tad different in both versions. Again, this is something I do not understand, but it made sense to somebody. When you press start and press select, it'll show that your game has saved. That's how you do it in the Game Boy Color version. In the Game Boy version, there are save spots all over the game. And that is how you save. There are limited saving options. Now, jumping back to Game Boy Color, we're going to be doing that a lot. We're going to be jumping between the versions, so I'll try to make it as pinpointed as possible whenever I change subject matters. But just know there is an odd quirk with the Game Boy Color and the fact that you can save anywhere. Saving anywhere on a Game Boy cartridge seems fairly new, especially back for 1999. It kinda works in this game. Let's just say when you press start to save, the game throws you back to a location where you would load when you open up your save. That means, essentially, you can warp when you save. Like, let's say you're halfway through a room and you press start to save. In fact, you don't even have to save, you can just press start. It'll warp you back to the point where you would open up your save. There are some really good examples of this later on in the game, but I just wanted to make it known now that if you just happen to have a copy of Conker's Pocket Tales lying around and you want to play along, you are going to be so confused and aggravated in the later levels. Now right here, this is the bread and butter of Conker's Pocket Tales. Boom! Box puzzles. Get used to them because that's all they have. Oh, sorry. Spoke too soon. Block puzzles and button puzzles. This might be another thing that, yeah, I probably can't blame it because it's a Game Boy game. By the way, you might be wondering, Niskel, why did you just run into the fire? Well, first of all, audience, I just wanted to let you know that that is not decoration. And in fact, almost every house is a fireplace that you can get hurt on. The slingshot. Press the B button to fire Conkers. I can fire myself. Ah! Because the Conkers constantly reload, you have infinite ammo technically. Collect as many as you can. You can collect up to 99. After that, it just won't show you collecting anymore. You can fire directly ahead, and you can also fire diagonally. What's really stupid is in the Game Boy Color version, you can shoot through solid objects. In the Game Boy version, you can't. You have to be directly in the line of fire in order to shoot something. It makes no sense on why those mechanics change because they are the exact same thing. Firing's the same button in both versions, and yet you can shoot through one. I don't know. Anyway, Forest Guardian, look what I got. Now that you have the slingshot, beat my game. To gain access to the spooky forest, aim using the control pad and press the A or B button to shoot. Alright, let's see which version has it better. I should let you know that I'm playing the Game Boy Color version on the Game Boy Player for the GameCube. And I'm using a Retron 5 to play it for the Game Boy Original. Yeah, having a GameCube control stick actually works a lot better. Not too bad. It is kind of funny that if you fail that, the Forest Guardian goes, "Oh, that won't do! Do it again!" And I also like how the characters refer to this as a quest. Conker got his birthday ruined. That's not exactly an adventure to go on. In fact, that's not even one I would brag about. Like, I'm not gonna go to the local bar after this adventure's done and go, yeah, some doofus acorn stole all my presents and ruined my birthday. After I was done crying for 5 minutes, I decided to nut up, shut up, and get on this adventure of mine. It's like, no, you're not gonna go to the pub and talk about this. So, I guess this is where the backlash was coming from. I shouldn't say backlash because, you know, somebody found it entertaining. But when Rare was accused of constantly only making kiddie games, and that's why they restructured 12 Tales into the game we know today, this game is a perfect example of what everyone was talking about. Keep that in mind. Again, this is only the hub world. We'll get into the rest of the game. Well done! Take this tea! It will let you into Mushroom Town! Have you been upstairs yet? One thing I find kind of not endearing, but it makes sense in a game design perspective, the Acorn denizens. The only reason they are here is to tell you where to go. No joke. I thought this game was going to be over in like, let's say an hour and a half. That was my guesstimate when I first started playing this game and practicing for the LP. I played it on a legit Game Boy. And I thought, you know what? This will be easy. You know, quick and simple Game Boy game, get it done, and then we're out of here. Because everybody is telling me where to go. And in fact, a lot of the main story missions, they'll just hand you presents and move you along to the next plot point. So I figured, oh yeah, I'll be done in no time. Yeah, no, it's fine. Nope. My first playthrough probably took about 12 hours. And I have more explaining to do a bit later. I suppose I should mention the collectibles now, too. We already know about the acorns, we know about the conkers. They are scattered all over every single world. But we have a few different collectibles that we're going to go for 100%. And we are actually going to get 100% in both games. You got your blue presents. Blue presents are actually the plot presents. These cannot be missed. If you want to progress through the story, you're going to be collecting the blue presents. We have... Well, hold on, excuse me. Hi, Conker, is this yours? Here, have a bleeding present. There you go. I'm going to go on a different tangent because we actually haven't seen the other collectibles yet. We'll get to them when we get to them. But just know I will be keeping track on the sidebars here whenever we pick up a collectible because they are kinda hard to keep track of. In fact, funny story, every walkthrough I have looked at just to double check my notes, not a single walkthrough has a completed 100% walkthrough. I'm not joking. People don't care about this game enough to actually do a legit walkthrough. And that makes me laugh. This is the game that time forgot! Again, I ask people, hey, have you heard of the other Conker game? And they go, oh, what, Project Spark? No! This one, the one that nobody gives a shit about! And that's why nobody knows about it! Alright, this mechanic, I hate. I absolutely hate it. And it's just because the timing is just a tad bit off for the Game Boy. You have to double tap the A button in order to smash critters. You only need to do this for the wind-up mice, and you can actually do it to the big red ants, too. There's a few other enemies that you can do that to, but the main one is the mice. Sometimes, doors will be locked and will not open until you kill the wind-up mouse. I believe you can also do this for the bats, but I've had times where it does not work. So I would just shoot them with the slingshot. It's a lot easier. Another small thing I guess I could mention between both versions. The block puzzles. They are actually easier in the Game Boy version. With that being said, the Game Boy version is honestly a bit harder. Yeah, I know. Bet you didn't see that one coming. Both games are hard in their own rights. There are certain parts that I despise in both games. Have you got the hang of puzzles yet? Well, I hope so. In the next room, there's like 10,000 more. I hope you enjoy the rest of the game. Here's the introduction of the other types of puzzles. Button puzzles. Yep. We've got button puzzles. Let's see. Why don't we try... let's see. Let's try middle. Let's try right. Let's try up. We did it! Yay! Just imagine these and the block puzzles for the rest of the game. Okay, I'll drop the exaggerated shtick. Again, this is a game that has some good ideas. I know somebody in the Rare writing room had these ideas and was just like, guys, we need to make this freaking fun. How do we do that? Well, let's have another critter killer section. Yeah, because everybody loves that, and they lock a door behind it. There we go, we did it. I do have to admit, the music, because I've been hearing it for like the past few days straight, it gets stuck in my head all the time. Like, I wake up to take, to hit the bathroom during the night, and I'm humming the songs from this game. They get stuck in my head. Now, here's a good example of how the original Game Boy version has more simplified puzzles, but it's harder in different respects. Over in the Game Boy, original Game Boy version, there are only 3 buttons to push, while in the Game Boy Color, apparently it has enough processing power to handle 5 buttons. Ooh! And there is actually one level in particular that is so radically different between versions. I honestly don't believe it's the same level. One thing I should also mention, if you are doing a bit of the walkthrough, again, I say this as if people are gonna, pull out their Conker's Pocket Tales copy for the Game Boy and be like, oh, thank God, somebody cares enough! No. One thing you need to know, the layout of both games changes depending on which version you're playing. They are literally having me redo what I did for Conker's Bad Fur Day and Live and Reloaded. There's 2 separate games I need to talk about, but they're the exact same game. I actually can't believe I was able to make that connection. It's stupid. But yes, special items are in different spots. The blue presents aren't too far off, but the main objectives change depending on which version you're playing. There are even entire rooms that have more adversity, like this one. This one isn't even in the Game Boy Color version, and there's spikes all over the floor. I just don't get it. Who in their right mind thought, you know what? Instead of making the same game and just, tweaking it just a tad, because, not everybody has a Game Boy Color yet, and, we made it for the Game Boy. Why don't we just, make it the same, and then they get the same experience? Nah, screw it. Let's basically make the 2 versions different. So radically different that if I were to make a walkthrough just for Pocket Tales Game Boy Color, it would not help you at all for the Game Boy version. Honest to God, I got lost in the Game Boy version because I was too busy thinking about the Game Boy Color version. Oh hey, there's a type of collectible. Red presents. Red presents are a type of collectible that we will be getting. There are 2 in every level, but here in this hub world, there are 6. Sorry, I just had to get my bearings there. Alright, heading into a cave. Here's an enemy type I'm glad does not show up in the Game Boy version. These are spiders. As soon as you're within proximity, they'll just start walking towards you. They will follow your every move, and eventually they'll just crowd you. In fact, a lot of enemies crowd you. It's obnoxious. And then we also have fireball launchers that are everywhere, and you can kind of see where they're probably going to go with the level design a lot later. Do you have 7 presents yet? Did you find the one to the left of your house? Remember how to dig? Press select. See what I mean about these guys? They're just like, oh hey, you need to go here to grab your blue present and then move on with the story. But yes, I've got my 7 presents. In fact, they just reminded me how to dig, so I'll press select. Here we go. And in fact, we are actually closing in on our first boss. If you can believe, this game has bosses. And they're kind of ridiculous. Again, there are some good ideas. I don't know. I don't know about this one. Take a rain check, maybe. Maybe another 5 to kind of pan out what this is. Although, this does get me interested. When did the storm clouds start coming in in the development process of 12 Tales? Like, I know the game was announced, 12 Tales was announced in 97. And they needed a lot of time. I believe they were making, Pocket Tales at the same time. I don't know if that's exactly right, but it makes sense given the timeline. Because they had to reuse the assets after they canceled 12 Tales in 1999 to come out with Bad Fur Day in 2001. Ah, if it isn't my young Conker! Not my young Conker, I didn't expect you to get this far! Well, it's the end of the road for you. Why don't you play with histamine? Oh my good lord. Oh my good god. Save your game. Make sure you have plenty of Conkers. Because if you don't, and you go into this boss and you don't have any more firepower, you have to die and get a game over. Yep. There is no ammo in the boss arenas. You go in there and you're not ready, you lose. So let's take on histamine. The name is a pun. It's a big snake. Histamine. Believe it or not, this boss actually does change between versions. Histamine in the Game Boy Color version will actually speed up the more he gets hit. In the Game Boy version, he stays the exact same speed, but his patterns are different from Game Boy Color. What's kinda neat is, and I'm specifically saying this for Game Boy Color, almost every boss can be cheesed. Just a little bit. With histamine, you can actually stand in between the trees and he will never hit you. Now, we actually defeated him pretty quickly over in the Game Boy version, and we actually have a little bit more time. Histamine will always repeat the same pattern, so you can actually just sit here and just chill in between the trees. He will eventually go into your line of fire, and then you could kill him. So, all in all, not bad for a first boss. They're only going to get worse, kinda. But it just depends on which version you're playing. Like, both histamines, pretty easy. Ah, you've beaten histamine! It seems that I've underestimated you. Well, you can't catch me. I'm off! I love the evil beard. He's got the little pointy evil beard. He's an acorn, for God's sake. Alright, so after you beat a boss, that'll be your last present. Well done, Conker! Your new rating is Forest Fiend! Oh, yeah. You get different rankings depending on how many collectibles you get. And that is a good way to keep track of how many collectibles you've actually gotten. Wow, you've beaten histamine! I saw someone run off towards the barn! Hey, look at that! You got to the next part of the story, why don't you? Head on there, you idiot! Okay. Here's the last collectible. Invitations. Only true explorers will find all the party invites on each level. Now, what the game failed to tell you is, every level has 4 invitations. They don't tell you that in this game. I believe it's mentioned in the manual. I'll have to find some scans of the manual just to double check. But yeah, they don't tell you that. This one you are forced to get. This is just the introduction to invitations. And all of them are optional. You do not have to get red presents. You do not have to get invites. Those ones are optional. But if you want the best rating by the end of the game, you gotta get those collectibles. And I'll be showing you how, so no worries. 8 presents to enter the old barn. Well, I think that's an invitation to the next level. Why don't we head on in? After we jauntily walk over. Oh. Well done, you have found all 8 presents. Well, we haven't found them all. I'll be here when you return. So this guy's only job is to just say, hey, you did it. Why don't you go into the barn and I'll just be right here. We're gonna have to talk with him after we're done with the barn. And I've noticed Conker really has a thing for, like, barn levels. I mean, we're entering a barn here in Pocket Tales. There's an entire barnyard. The Barn Boys chapter of Bad Fur Day. Yeah, so I guess they just... I mean, you know, woodland creatures, barns, it kind of makes sense. It just seems a little goofy after you do it so many times. And in fact, in 12 Tales, they kind of share a theme with this upcoming world. So I can see where their head's at. It's like doing a deep analysis. It's like I'm diving into the brain of this Conker game that nobody cares about. And by the way, if you do know this game, and you actually do legitimately like it, let me know your grievances with it, because chances are I will agree 100% with all of them. Because, yeah, I do enjoy some parts of this game. There's just a lot of in it. Alright, we got the key, let's head out. So as soon as you leave the barn, it locks behind you and says, alright, get 8 more presents, you idiot, and then you can leave the western area. Yeah, I hope you like this music, because every time you press start, read a sign, read a door, doesn't matter. The music restarts every time you interrupt it. I think that's a good place to stop. We finished Willow Woods, we're now in Vultureville, and Conker's gonna play some Donkey Kong on his Game Boy. Next time on Conker's Pocket Tales, we're gonna take down Vultureville. Yay. And possibly meet a new character that's really iffy. We'll see you guys next time.